Hello there, people, and welcome to another episode of Flight Box. My name is Ray. Thank you so much for joining me here to talk about episode 7 of Daredevil Born Again Season 1. This one called Art for Art's Sake. An interesting episode, to say the least. But of course, before diving into discussion about this week's episode, of course, I want to remind everybody that this particular show, Flight Box, can be found along with the rest of my shows at theflightcast.com or wherever you get your podcast. That includes Apple Podcasts, the Flightcast YouTube page, youtube.com/theflightcast, where all these episodes get posted as soon as they are available. And also on Pandora and Spotify as well. You can search for the Flightcast and find the show there, or wherever you get your podcasts, whether you use a podcatcher like Overcast or anything like that. You can find this show on Wednesdays, talking about the new show. Right now we're in the middle of Daredevil Born Again. In a couple of weeks after that's over, we will be talking about Season 2 of Andor when that starts on April 22nd. So prepare for that, Star Wars fans. We got a lot to enjoy with that one, no doubt about it. You can also find the main show of this particular network, the Flightcast, on Mondays. Just did an episode the other day talking about Scooper Madness and how they're, pretty much targeting Marvel and DC fans at this point with respect to new news, and that's only going to get worse, especially after the CinemaCon stuff that came up today, that I'm sure we will talk about as well on Friday Flight, which is the Friday show where we do listener feedback, emails, and posts from you on anything that you want to talk about with respect to movies, TV, and other assorted media, and even watch updates. If you're in the middle of watching something, we've got a few people in the middle of Star Trek The Next Generation watches, first-time watches, no less, which is always exciting to get some new Trekkies into the group for sure. But Friday Flight, which, by the way, the deadline for feedback, anybody that's interested in participating in this week's Friday Flight, because yes, I have gone back to weekly, Friday at noon Eastern Daylight Time. Send your emails and posts in by then, and the episode will get recorded. They'll be included in that evening's recording for that particular show, for this particular week. So Friday, noon Eastern Daylight Time, the deadline, Friday Flight. But again, you can find all these shows and everything else, my blog and whatnot, at theflightcast.com. And also want to take a moment to thank all of the very loyal and very supportive Patreon subscribers, everybody at patreon.com/theflightcast. Thank you so much. Those of you who are flight officers, hope that you've been enjoying the bonus content. I was going to record something yesterday, but CinemaCon and April Fool's Day kind of torpedoed that. But don't worry, there's more coming, because I mentioned earlier that I've been doing flight reviews on movies that all of you more than likely have watched, but I have not seen yet. And recently, I did a review a couple weeks ago on the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment. Last week, I did a review on one of the two Christopher Nolan movies that I hadn't seen, Dunkirk. That's available at patreon.com/theflightcast. And this week, it's going to be a Pixar movie, because there's 10 Pixar movies, at least, that I have not seen. And I'm going to pick one of them, and I'm going to, have the Kleenex on standby, because I know it's going to be emotional. I know I'm going to cry, whatever it is, because that's what Pixar movies do. They make us emotional, and they make us cry. That's literally how it works. It would not be a Pixar movie if it did not do that. So I'm going to pick one that I know that a few people have recommended this particular one to me. I mean, they've recommended a number of Pixar movies that I haven't seen to me, because Pixar is, can almost do no wrong, subjectively speaking. In my mind, they can do no wrong. I even enjoy Lightyear. I know a lot of people didn't care for that one, but I very much enjoyed that film because I understood what it was. It's, it's about Buzz Lightyear. It's, the movie that the toy was based off of, not the actual toy and his relationship to Woody and Bo Peep and everybody else. But whatever. I digress. I'm watching a Pixar movie this week, and I'm going to review it at patreon.com/theflightcast. I'm going to talk about how emotional it made me, because knowing the movie that it is, and I'm keeping it under wraps, it'll be a surprise, but knowing the movie that it is, it's one of those that people are like, Ray, are you serious? Of all the Pixar movies, you haven't seen this one? No, I haven't, because I know it's going to be an emotional one, for sure. But if you want to hear all the emotions, go ahead and go to patreon.com/theflightcast, sign up to be a flight officer, get access to that and all the other bonus content that is there. There's previous episodes of Flight Review and special episodes of Flight Box, as well as episodes of Flight Speed, which is the show that I usually do riding on the way home from work, because I have a bit of a longer commute with respect to that, or sometimes home from the gym, right? That does work out as well. But at any rate, thank you so much, those of you who are subscribers to patreon.com/theflightcast. And if you are so inclined or interested, go ahead and go to that website and sign up to become a flight officer. Hope that you enjoy all of the bonus content that is there. All right, let's get into it. As always, just the preliminary warning, this is a spoiler-filled discussion, so don't listen to this episode unless you have watched Daredevil Born Again episode 7 of season 1, or unless you don't care about spoilers. If you don't care about spoilers, then go ahead and listen to it. But this is a breakdown of everything that happened in this week's particular episode. And this is the first one, I would say, out of all the episodes so far this season that felt like just a plot progressor, right? This episode was purely to move the story forward. There wasn't a whole lot. I mean, there wasn't a ton of depth like we've seen as far as the character development and as far as the emotional stakes that have been involved in this particular episode. And I don't want to make it seem like it was a bad episode, because it certainly furthered the narrative along, right? You know, it moved things. It was a faster episode, you know, faster paced and also a bit shorter in the runtime. It was a fine episode. I didn't, you know, I enjoyed it just the same as I've enjoyed any of the previous 6. But we're into that final push now, headed towards the season finale, right? We're now 2 episodes away after this one. And this is one of those cases where, you know, I don't want to say that the show's like, well, hurry up to the finish line. No, I don't think that's the case. I just think that now that Matt is back to being the devil of Hell's Kitchen, that, you know, things are going to speed up, right? And we also have to remember with respect to how this season is going to end, we have to remember that season 2 is currently in production right now. It is going to happen. There is no, like, you know, we're not hanging off a cliff here like, oh my goodness, it has to stick the landing or else there won't be another season. No, there's going to be another season. They're filming it right now. There's plenty of spoiler-filled set photos that I do not share, but have seen, that are out there, and I'm sure a number of you have seen them. Right, season 2 is happening, so we're not riding on the success of the end of this season to see if that one happens. And we also have to remember that, because if there's anything that may be left unresolved or anything that is started at this point in time that will carry over into the next season, we have to take that into account. Like this whole thing with the anti-vigilante task force, I think that is clearly carrying over into the next season. And I'm sure more than a few of you who know about what's going on next season already, you can probably confirm or deny that at this point. But it's pretty obvious he's putting Powell and these guys together. It's like, yeah, they're gonna continue on here. But you know, this whole episode, it was just furthering a number of agendas, and it was not the most cookie cutter, but I guess you could say the most standard of the episodes so far this season. I mean, it's pretty simple. Things are coming to a head, and we have a convergence, if you will. And one of the convergences that I was waiting to see if it was going to happen is this whole triangle that Heather finds herself in. And sure enough, it did. And she still doesn't understand exactly what is happening, which is fine because she's not supposed to understand. She believes that she can control her world, right? She lives in a world full of masks that she's studying, and she's writing that book, but she has no idea that she's dating a mask. And she's starting to suspect things, though, right? I mean, we had the scene where, you know, it was right after, you know, Matt saved Angela, and, you know, he was having another one of those, his blood showers, right? Getting rid of the evidence, getting rid of the DNA, and she surprises him, but she sees those bruises, and it's like, oh, there we go. Hard to explain bruises. What happens when the girlfriend sees the hard to explain bruises? Yeah, well, you might have a conversation, and this is a difficult one, because it's not just any woman that he's dating. This is an actual psychologist, a psychiatrist, someone who studies this, someone who is studying what he does, literally, is studying him wearing a mask, him being a vigilante. Not that she knows who he is, but the idea that her brain is already wired to try and figure out what makes these type of people tick. And so the question she's asking at the beginning of this episode is like, okay, Angela, or Heather rather, you're treading into dangerous territory. You really don't want to know these answers. And we know this, right? This is the type of dramatic irony that I'm okay with, right? Generally speaking, when it comes to television shows, I loathe dramatic irony. I hate it. And the reason I don't like it is because, generally speaking, especially on network television, the type of dramatic irony that is employed is the type that makes the main characters stupid. The idea that there's going to be some detail that they're not smart enough to see, that the villain or the antagonist is keeping from them, that they continuously overlook, right? And it's something so obvious to us that just out of happenstance or circumstance, oh, the main character isn't in this state of mind, or isn't picking that up. I hate that. And I see it far too many times, especially in network shows, and they drag it on for 3, 4, 5, sometimes even the whole half of a season. It's like, I am so done with you making, with the writers of these shows, the creators, making the main characters dumber than a box of rocks, right? Just let them be smart enough to figure it out, and then let's deal with the aftermath of them figuring it out pretty quickly. Well, this is different because Matt's whole, like, the Devil of Hell's Kitchen is a secret identity, right? The idea is he goes to extensive lengths to keep that identity a secret, but he's clumsy because he's human and he's blind after all. So he's not going to get everything perfect. He's not going to dot all of his I's and cross all of his T's. He's not quite Batman in that regard. And of course, Batman is not perfect. He makes mistakes with or without prep time. I've always hated the damn prep time argument. Nope, not digressing. Let's continue forward here. The point is that this type of dramatic irony, this is the one that's okay. This is the one that I'm okay with because this is a big deal. This is a secret, like this is a continuing secret. This is a secret identity. This is a case where if somebody stumbles onto it, like he's trying to hide this. It's our main character that we're rooting for. He's trying to keep this a secret. So if somebody with a above average intelligence starts picking up on things, it's like, okay, well, what's going to happen? Are there any red herrings that she can be thrown? Like, can we lead her down a different path? Can we, convince her that this isn't where she wants to go? And Matt deflects as long as he can. At this point, she just processes it as trauma, unseated, deep-seated trauma that he isn't resolving it. Okay, good, because there's still the fact that he's blind. He's a blind lawyer, so this idea that he could possibly be this ass-kicking, vigilante, yes, that his disability, his perceived disability, if you will, does preclude people from the possibility of reaching for that in that regard, right? Except Powell. If Powell all of a sudden, and I think Powell's too much of a meathead, Officer Powell, to even put two and two together with respect to that, right? But at any rate, Heather is clearly going down a very dangerous path with respect to, if she starts poking and asking more questions of what is going on with Matt. And from the moment that started, I'm like, okay, well, we know that Matt's relationships are not long for this world. The constant half of him that stays within the vigilante persona as the Devil of Hell's Kitchen is, that's always going to wreak havoc on his relationships. And we've seen that represented in, previous iteration of this show. We've seen it, represented in the Daredevil film, especially if you watch that director's cut, that extended cut of the Daredevil film in 2003, which I've said many times is superior, subjectively speaking, to the theatrical version, and is different. It is different enough. It's almost like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition in that regard, in terms of how different the cut is, seriously. But either way, so this relationship is fraught with problems and potential tension, and more than likely is not going to last. We'll see. But either way, this continues forward, and this triangle of the fact that Heather is dating Matt, but she's also treating Fisk and Vanessa, right? The fact that she's treating Kingpin and his wife, it's like, all right, when are these going to converge? And you wouldn't think, I will give them credit. I wasn't thinking that it was going to converge with Muse. I should have thought that, though, because, of course, he's the dude that wanted the book signed. He's the dude that went to go get his book signed, for her. He's the one that she's been counseling this entire time. And during that counseling session, I don't know if this was made direct or if anybody else picked up on this or not, but he seemed to indicate that she started him on this path that led to over 60 dead as a serial killer. Not that she intentionally did it, but that their sessions have helped clarify that he is this monster that needs to drain the blood from everybody, and almost killing Angela in that process, right? And I do like that, we saw Angela, but we didn't see a ton of her this particular episode because she's still recovering from all the blood that she lost. But, in her mind, it's like the Daredevil legend is back on track in that regard. They haven't seen him in a year, but that was all she could talk to Matt and her mother about, is about how Daredevil kicked Muse's ass, and basically just you could hear it in her voice, yep, this is what my dad was talking about, this is how it's supposed to go, right? Daredevil is a hero, that type of deal, right? So it's almost like the legend is rebuilding itself, which of course is not something that Fisk wants. So when Buck tells him, yeah, we think Daredevil was, also present, yeah, he's not happy. He's not happy at all. And he would like to believe that he's pushed this aside. He would like to believe that he is no longer emotionally connected, but he knows it. Obviously, being as connected to Matt as he is, he's like, okay, I see what's going on here. But he has gamesmanship. This isn't simply a case of, all right, I'm gonna take this blunt instrument, this task force of assholes that I just created, and send them right after Daredevil. No, he doesn't do that. He actually proceeds like a calculated businessman. And I will say that he was probably the strongest part of this episode, in my opinion. It was just the way that he was moving and the way that he was posturing himself. It's like, okay, all right, this is, I get this, right? Because he's got the cops, he's got the other cop, Angie, investigating, and pretty much nailing down that it is Bastion that is the suspect, right? And so in the middle of all of this, everybody's basically reporting to him. And this is where the triangle comes into play because both he and Matt figure out at the same time who the next target is, Heather. And neither one of them knows that they have a connection to Heather like directly, but and they're also using it. It's a different connection because they're using it to their advantage in a different way. Matt, genuinely has feelings for Heather. Now, does Heather have stronger feelings for Matt than he does for her? I think so. I don't know for certain. I mean, we'll see. He did say I love you back, but I it's what does Matt love more? His relationships with the opposite sex or that damn costume? Does he love being the devil of Hell's Kitchen more than he does having a girlfriend or eventually a wife? That's a great question, isn't it? And that's where the character study. That's the part of it that is the character study. And it's a little bit in this episode, but it still isn't focused on quite as much as just moving the plot along. And so everything comes to a head because Heather just gets caught in literally three different crosshairs. Right, first there's the fact that Bastion basically outs himself, not basically, completely reveals himself, like, oh yeah, I am the serial killer. It is me, right? But he does it in this like creepy calculated, like disgusting way. And I will admit, truthfully, there was a time when I was a kid that I didn't have an issue necessarily seeing blood like being drawn. Like if I went to the doctor and I needed blood drawn, like the needle and what, like that stuff. There was a time when it wouldn't bother me. Now, as I'm older, I can't look at that. That was uncomfortable. That was unnerving. Watching him like basically carve into her arm, to draw blood. That was really really unsettling. I was fidgeting and just yeah, no, I did not. I was very uncomfortable watching that. Did not like that at all. Had absolutely no desire to see blood drained out of Heather whatsoever. And I'm just sitting there the whole time like, Matt, just Daredevil, Daredevil, please, can Daredevil please, Daredevil come through the window, Daredevil please intervene, throw a billy club through the window, do something. I cannot watch this. I don't want to see this. I know that Heather's probably not going to make it out of this season, but we'll see how this goes. But still, just do something. And it took forever. But it's also a convergence, right? Because first, it's like Bastion, aka Muse, who's now in full costume because he just had it, after he knocked her out and, basically put on his real face, if you will. He's there. He's got her trapped in her office. Matt figures it out because he goes to the crime scene, knocks out Powell with the billy club at the end of it, but he feels the impressions of the drawings that, Bastion, that Muse has drawn of Heather, and discovers that she's the target, right? After he leaves, Powell's the one that's like, we've identified who this doctor is that might be the next target. And of course, Fisk knows who that is. And he's like, oh, okay, opportunity. We don't need to call anybody else. Send the task force. You guys handle it. You go storm that building, right? Here's where her office is. So everybody is converging on Heather's office, right? And thankfully, Matt gets there first. But this is after blood has been dripping. There's this whole thing about how, okay, he like the blood is dripping from the victims, and now, like in Angela's case, she couldn't do anything. She was just there, right, in his lair. But in Heather's case, she tries. Like, she's losing blood, she's losing energy, but she tries, and basically is able to, distract him and like, hold him at bay enough for Daredevil to come in and kick ass. And then it turns into a fight, and you find out that he knows Taekwondo, which I don't know how comic accurate that is, but I know some people have talked about how, I've seen some conversation about how Muse on some level is able to fight Daredevil in hand-to-hand combat. Well, he definitely did here, most certainly, and held his own. And it was another brutal fight. And at one point, I don't know what did Matt do? Did like the wire from the Billy Club like slice into Muse, and that's when he started bleeding all over the place? I don't know. Whatever it was, it got messy all over that tarp that he had over the floor. But basically, as the rage is coming out, and as Matt starts screaming with every punch, that's when he throws Muse into the room, and 5 bullets go into his body. He's like, oh, well, all right then. Angela has retrieved the gun that Muse had and has shot him dead. All right, there we go. And look, I don't have I'll just go ahead and say this. I don't have the connection to the comics, right? I have never read a Daredevil comic. There are a ton of Marvel comics I have not read. So, I've come into all of this, from movies and television, right? For DC and for Marvel in that regard. So I don't have this connection to these characters and to this world, which means that no, I'm not like bothered that Muse is dead. I'm not. However much of a villain he was in the Daredevil world, he's not one anymore in the MCU. Okay, right. It's really no skin off my back, but I see this all the time, and I saw a little bit of this earlier today when I was looking up some stuff for this episode. I saw a few pieces complaining like another Marvel character has been sidelined. Another promising Marvel character has been sidelined. Yeah, okay, all right. You want all their villains to live, and you want them to continuously be threats, and you thought that Muse was going to be the big bad of this season for the rest of the go, right? For the last couple of episodes. Well, no, Muse isn't the big bad. Muse was never the big bad of this particular season. And this season doesn't necessarily have a big bad. This season is about, again, the rebirth of Daredevil, right? Which now he is reborn, and now it's a question of, okay, adjusting to the world as he is reborn. Because he's definitely, like, he's starting to go down the destructive path as far as his social connections are concerned. Cherry is like, yeah, no, I'm not helping you. I already warned you not to do anything. You didn't listen to me. You're on your own. I'm not helping you out, which of course Matt doesn't appreciate. But it's also starting to stick in McDuffie's craw because she knows Matt is hiding shit and he's not saying anything to her, but he is talking to Cherry. And Cherry won't tell her anything, so now she's pissed at him and is like, why will none of you trust me? I trust him and I trust you. Neither of you will tell me shit. What the hell is this? I don't appreciate that. And she basically storms off. I'm paraphrasing what she said. But she's not happy that there's a secret that she really does not want to know. Seriously, she does not want to know. And whether or not McDuffie finds out, I don't know. Does she continue on into season 2? One would think, unless the law firm is just going to go completely belly up at the end of this season or at the beginning of next season. I don't know. We've got 2 more episodes potentially to find that out. But yeah, tensions are rising and nerves are fraying in all of Matt's social circles since he's put that damn mask back on. Which, of course, that is the life of a vigilante. That is the life of any type of superhero, especially one that has a dual identity. If you're trying to protect those that you care about and your connections from your enemies, then yeah, there's going to come a point where they feel like you're shutting them out and they want answers, and you can't give them answers without their lives being in danger. And right now, as far as I'm concerned, Heather's life is very much in danger in a couple of ways. I know Muse is dead, right? But here's the thing. First off, she damn near died, but Matt stabilized her before he left. And the whole time, that was where the tension was coming from me, because I'm like, dude, you hear the cops coming. You hear that anti-vigilante task force coming up the stairs. You heard Fisk give them the order to breach. Get the hell out of the apartment. I didn't know where they were going with that. Was it going to be a case where he was going to sneak out and it was like, oh, we saw Daredevil? Or was it going to be a case where he was already gone by the time they got up there? Thankfully, it was the latter. He was already gone. They found Heather. She was stabilized. They got her to the hospital. Okay, cool. So now it's like, all right, what is Fisk going to do? He's got Muse dead to rights. Literally dead. The body is there. Daredevil escaped. And he's got another one of his boys on the vigilante task force telling him, yeah, he was here. He was absolutely here. So then Fisk goes, no, he wasn't. He wasn't here at all. You guys did your job. You took Muse down, and you are all heroes. You were to be commended for that. And he has that big photo up, that big presser, right, where he takes credit for it, and he's got Powell holding up the Muse mask, and he's like, I told you I would protect this city from masks, and I have delivered, right? So it's like, okay, so that's your play. You're using this as a springboard to get the city and the public on your side with respect to this anti-vigilante task force. You've even gone so far as to have Daniel, and whether Fisk instructed him to do this or not, Daniel took it upon himself, his little aide, played by James Gandolfini's son, right? Like, he takes it upon himself to threaten BB and say, stop telling people on your blog that Daredevil saved the day. He did not. The Anti-Vigilante Task Force did. If you don't change this, I'm going to make your life a living hell. And I have to admit that since he's been a dude bro for the majority of this show, I didn't necessarily buy his intimidation move toward BB. I mean, she looked concerned, but I don't know. He just doesn't see. His father, may he rest in peace, pulled off intimidation better than he did in this particular episode. And that's not necessarily his fault, because they didn't build his character to be. His character's an idiot. His character's like a dumb ditz, basically, right? Like he's the one, like, if we take the allegory, like, remember the allegory of what this is in real life, right? If we take that to fruition, he's one of the guys that in real life would be wearing the jersey and would be wearing the red hat and would be saying stupid things on the internet because he's a meathead, right? That's the vibe that I get from this dude. So the idea that he would threaten BB, it's like, I don't totally buy it. I mean, I know you mean what you're saying, but I don't totally buy it in your performance because of the way that you've been built up like a complete ditz up to this point. But either way, the point is Fisk and the task force are taking full credit for taking down Muse, and they're giving Daredevil no credit. And Matt doesn't really care about this at the moment because he's just glad that Heather is alive. And Heather, that she's pulling the whole, and I wonder, are they going to pull like the foggy memory thing? No pun intended, but like the idea of, okay, because she's like, someone else was it, like, I shot him. Like, she knows she shot Muse. She knows that she killed Muse, right? And not necessarily the task force. But she also knows that somebody else was there. She knows Daredevil was there and thinks that Daredevil called her by name. Now, Heather is a smart individual. She is a psychiatrist that has been studying vigilantes, is writing a book on them, and she knows that Matt has unreleased trauma and pent-up energy that he hasn't worked his way through yet, and has been distant and has bruises on his body that he can't explain. Now, will she be able to put two and two together enough from that? Don't know. No idea. We're going to find out. And so this is where everything is kind of coming to a head. Will she find out, right? And if she does find out, what are the ramifications of that going to be? Because here's why her life is in danger. Her life is in danger, as far as I'm concerned, because she's in the middle of the crosshairs of this, and she knows that she's the one that killed Mew. She knows the task force didn't do it. She knows that she shot him in that regard, right? She also knows that Daredevil was there. So if she starts talking, especially considering that she is literally Fisk and Vanessa's therapist, if she starts talking, then what's going to happen as far as, like, they want the story to be that the task force did it, they want to take credit for it. But if she's literally the witness, and everybody knows she's the doctor from Tribeca that barely survived, right? If she's the witness saying, no, the task force didn't do shit, Daredevil saved me, or Daredevil helped me and I killed Muse, right? Like, that could be an issue down the road. And I don't know where they're going to play this. I don't know how they're going to take this. But she could potentially be a liability for Fisk's operation at this point. And he's definitely back into his criminal ways, just masquerading as the mayor of New York. And this other subplot, this whole thing with Luca and Vanessa, and this idea that Luca is not happy with how things are being run now that Fisk is mayor, and he wants Vanessa to take charge again, and, has no interest in paying that $2 million or $2.8 million or whatnot, right? And goes to Vanessa and basically suggests, hey, we could take him out. We can put you back in charge. We can go ahead and get that going, right? And so Vanessa, I don't know, doesn't necessarily say no, but there's that scene where she sends the location, the address. He's alone. Now, is it that obvious? Is it really that obvious that she sent the message to Luca to go take out Fisk when he was having dinner in that restaurant? Is it really that obvious? Is it really a case where she thought she was going to, I don't know. There's a part of me that believes, and maybe this has already been debunked, but there's a part of me that is not certain who she texted that, right? That he's alone, right? Did she text Luca that, or did she text Fisk that? Because, of course, what happens when Luca walks into the restaurant, gun in hand? Buck shoots him. And it's very nonchalant. Fisk is eating whatever it is, steak, sausage, whatever it was that he was eating, whatever his dinner is, right? And as Luca's on approach, 2-3 shots, boom. And Fisk very calmly, thank you, Buck, right? As if they knew he was coming. They knew Luca was on approach, and Buck was just there in the shadows, right? Luca didn't see him. Like, he didn't see him with a gun drawn, didn't see a dude was going to take him out once he approached Wilson. Like, I don't know. So that's why part of me goes, okay, did she text Luca or did she text Wilson? Who did she text with the location? I don't know. I am not sure with respect to that. The obvious situation would be that because she still is angry at Wilson, because she still, doesn't trust, what Fisk is doing as far as this whole mayoral thing, right? And she's got and the Adam thing, right? The Adam thing, that's why I think we're led to believe. I think the whole thing, like, she knows that he has something to do with Adam's disappearance, right? Whether she knows exactly where he is or not, or what happened to him, she knows that somehow he is responsible, and so this is her idea of getting vengeance, right? The idea that she's going to send a hitman to go take Wilson out, right? And of course, after Buck dispatches Luca, so now what? Is that over? Is that whole thing with the monsters, is that plot line over? Because he was the one causing the biggest problem in this regard. Are the underlings going to come and cause some more shit later? I don't know. But either way, he asks Buck to call her and like, ask Vanessa if she wants me to bring anything home for dinner. It's like, oh, okay, all right, just this tension, just this, all right, but my wife may or may not have sent a hitman to kill me. Whatever. Ask her if she wants me to bring home dinner. That type of deal. That's probably where this is going. So that part, of course, is devilishly delicious in that regard, as far as whatever the hell is going on in their relationship. And that's how the episode ends. And so we just end up with an episode where a lot of things are moved forward, but there isn't like a ton of in-depth character study and character development like we've had in the first 6 episodes. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. At some point, you got to advance the story. At some point, you got to advance the plot lines. You got to move forward before you get to that season finale. And we've only got 2 episodes left. So I get it. I totally get it. And again, I'm not broken up over Muse being gone because I don't have that type of connection to this world of characters, with Daredevil and everybody else and all of his rogues involved. So it doesn't bug me when a rogue is taken off the board. It just doesn't, because I don't have that type of connection, right? I'm not so disappointed. I'm not saying like so many fans are disappointed. I'm just saying I saw a little bit of what appears to be that type of sentiment, like, well, he could have been this, and another one has been taken down, that type of deal. So it's like, all right, whatever. I'm okay with it, because I just want to see where the story goes. And I'm always open to seeing where a story goes and trying not to rely on, like, predisposition to where I think the story should go in that regard. I want to see where the creatives take us and then judge it as fairly as I can from there, instead of being like, well, Muse should have been the big bad for the rest of the season. It should have been this, should have been that. No, I want to see what they're going to do. I want to see where this is going to go. I want to see how this landing is particularly handled by the time we get to that last episode on the 15th, right? We're going to find out. We've got 2 weeks left. So right now, I would say if I had to rank the episodes, is this one by default the weakest of the first 7? Okay, I still liked it. It's a plot mover, right? It moves things forward. There's nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of those in these types of shows, right? And to me, I'm just kind of glad that, with respect to these shows, that we are having like episodic, like, beginning, middle, and ends, right? Like, this isn't, I haven't heard or I haven't seen a lot of people have the same complaint about how, oh, it's just one big long movie cut into 6 or 7 different parts, right? I've heard that complaint about MCU shows. I've certainly heard that complaint about Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. I have not heard that complaint yet about Born Again. And it does not feel that way. Born Again does not feel that way to me. It is serialized. It's absolutely serialized. But no, I don't get that sense from the show, and that's great. That's good. So, hey, we've got 2 weeks left. See how they're going to stick this landing, and, then prepare for all of the hype that will be season 2 coming out next year, because they're in the middle of filming it now. And again, based off of some of the juice and the energy that I and others have gotten from these set photos, it promises to be a potentially very exciting season 2 indeed. But let's see how season 1 ends first in the next couple of weeks. And so that'll do it for this particular episode of Flight Box, talking about Daredevil, Born Again, Season 1, Episode 7. Art for art's sake. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Thank you so much for supporting the Flightcast and all of my little podcast endeavors. If you have any thoughts on this, if you've been enjoying the show, if you have any thoughts on this particular episode that you wish to share in spoiler-filled conversation on Friday Flight in just a couple of days, you know where to find me on Threads, back again on Threads and Instagram at The Flightcast, also still on Blue Sky at Just Flightcast. Also, there's the Flightcast Facebook page, and of course, I can be reached by email at ray@theflightcast.com. And there's also the Flightcast YouTube page. You can comment right underneath the posting for this particular episode on the Flightcast YouTube page as well. And one more reminder, the deadline for this week's Friday Flight is noon Eastern Daylight Time on Friday, because I'll be recording the episode that evening when I get home from work. All right, until then, take care, stay safe out there, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.